These are the rankings right now. Washington passed Florida State on Tuesday night. Kirk talked about how it's probably more about what Washington has done, but it is reasonable to wonder what Florida State is going to do without Jordan Travis at quarterback. They have the Gators tonight. Kirk will be calling the game. Oregon and Texas made huge statements last night, and Alabama still lurking with a date with Georgia coming up next week in the SEC championship game. But, Kirk, everything seems to hinge right here on this, with Florida State, its schedule, its win over LSU, and whether they can move into the top four.
Well, I think it depends on what happens with, obviously, these last couple of weeks. With Georgia and Alabama, to me, is significant. If Georgia wins, you eliminate Alabama. If Alabama wins, then it gets a little bit wacky because of the
murky,
potential of what could happen with other teams. Florida State, and I think Mike Norvell, he's very confident if they win out, they're in. I don't know if it's that simple. You know, I think as they sit on the outside right now, this is the first time we've had all 5 of the Power 5 conferences have a legitimate team. So you're going to have somebody left out, and how we get there is going to be the tough part, Pat.
I think they were waiting for something for Florida State to happen. And the injury, which was devastating to Jordan Travis. You never wish that upon anything.
Right.
Feels like the committee was waiting, and they utilized that almost to be the reason why they dropped them out.
Dude, I honestly think that was more about Washington's accomplishments. Again, another big win last
over
week.
Oregon State.
Going to Corvallis
maybe it was, but let me ask you this. Don't you think that with still more games to play, that it's reasonable to evaluate? People bring up Ohio State and Cardale Jones. Right. We have one game.
You got to give them a chance.
I'm not saying that Rodemaker has to put up 59. But he has to show that he can run the offense.
Kid can spin it.
Yeah, but let's see what he does tonight against Florida.
Yeah, no, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, then we evaluate Florida State. Don't you think that? I mean, you can't look at Florida State and say, well, they lost their heart and soul. I mean, it looks like that on paper. You got to give this kid a chance before we just totally eliminate him.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's eliminated him. I'm just saying that's a fair part of the evaluation.
That one right there, Washington, that's interesting. Well, very interesting to me, just strictly because what Oregon just did and what they have done. What about that Pac-12 championship? And then you think about what happened last year in this particular game. Ohio State almost has to fire Ryan Day because how loud it gets in Columbus after losing to Michigan in Columbus. And then all of a sudden they end up in the playoff. That it's not going to be like that this year with the way everything is kind of set up from all of the conferences, to your point.
I think it was, this will go over well. They talked about how impressed they were with Washington when they beat Oregon State. I am too. That resume, I'm sorry to say, it's better than that.
Better than who? Better than who?
Michigan. It's better than Michigan.
Steve, you said that Michigan's resume stinks.
You might as well move them to 3.
That's a great point, because if you get to the end next week and you're saying, well, they're undefeated, but they might get hopped by Oregon or Texas or Alabama if they win, you've got to bring them into the equation, too, if they're undefeated, or Ohio State.
Absolutely.
Bring either one of them in.
That's what I'm saying. So that they finally made the move to move them.
So if Florida State dominates Florida tonight, and if Washington struggles a little bit against Washington State, but they win, will they leapfrog Washington? Will they put Florida State back over Washington?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't see that. You?
Wow.
I don't think they will.
Wow.
It's interesting.
I think
what you're saying,
more
like,
a culmination of what they've done, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They've gone through a pretty good gauntlet.
They really have, no doubt. But they waited so late to do it, though. You know what I mean? Like, it was the Oregon State game. So I'm saying, if you look at this team, they go down to Gainesville without their starting quarterback.
And they put it on them.
And this team may have, like, a little trouble with Washington State, but they win. I think you have to give them credit for doing that down in the swamp.
Well, what's going to happen is the loser of this game, loser of that game is going to fall behind both of them.
Yeah. Guys, the one thing we got to keep in mind is this team right here is just lurking. They're lurking. So, I mean, if we're going to assume if they win out, they're going to, more than likely, someone's going down. I mean, the loser of this game's out.
Right.
And then you got Texas coming in. And the winner of this game, the big question is Oregon with their one loss to Washington. If they get revenge and beat them, and you have a one-loss Oregon, and you have an undefeated, that's what it's going to come down to.
Exactly.
Undefeated Florida State without Jordan Travis.
Oregon's one of those teams that you don't want to play now.
Champ.
Like, Oregon's a team you don't want to see Oregon
nothing to do with Oregon.
Exactly.
That's the debate right there to me, because Texas is going to go in.
Maybe so, but I do think you have to bring these in. The other question now is last year Ohio State lost, and then they became the least objectionable option and got the last spot in the playoff. That avenue is not available to the loser
Not
of this
year.
game. It doesn't.
No.
I mean, loser is done.
They're done. That's what makes this year's game so great.
Special.
Next year we're going to lose that. Next year there's and they don't have divisions. Next year, think about this, Ohio State, Michigan fans. They play this game and it means everything. There's nothing like coming in Ann Arbor or going to Clemson this game, right?
Right.
Imagine playing it the next week in Indianapolis.
Which means more.
It loses a lot when that happens.
It's for the Big Ten championship.
So strange.
And how about this?
And it's going to lose its importance.
And what if you do that and you split, and then a few weeks later they play again?
Third time?
They play again for a third time in one season.
Forget about it. You start to water down the brand now.
Okay, that may be true. Let me just ask the good people out here. Could you stand 3 games against Ohio State in 1 year?
They said absolutely. We get to beat them 3 times? Hell yeah. Love that.
This is going to get hit. Hey,
Ugly.
This is the craziest it's been since we started this thing in 2014.
Well, then what happens here?
This is the craziest it's going to be.
Well,
And then
then it's
chaos.
Then it's chaos.
Chaos because I feel like they have them blocked. You can't. They can't go in without them.
The thing about this one, everyone's talking about this victory. They don't want to see them now.
No.
That's a completely different team
They might not
than when they saw them early in the season. So I'm saying when you start to weigh out, okay, that's the best victory.
Yeah.
That was so early in the season. It's not like they beat
Alabama team.
the Alabama team that you see today.
We all agree they have the best win, right?
But you know what? The thing is,
But if Oregon beats Washington, is that better?
It at least gives you some controversy, some debate.
Yeah.
That's the reason we have a selection committee, because people didn't like the formulas.
And they'll get it right.
They want the selection committee because they didn't like the formula spitting it out.
How long is that show, Selection Sunday?
It's going to be 4 hours.
Nice.
Right now, we've got 4 hours of material.
You guys are going to do great.
Try to shake